All right, I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, as I'm completely off my normal morning path. I literally, in that moment, just forgot, like, how do I start this podcast? I've been doing this for years, and it just ejected out of my brain. Hey, everybody, I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast series that I can't remember how it begins, and I thought I was off book by now. I didn't think I'd need a script. But of course, the QA is the important part for the SGGQA podcast, which obviously stands for question and answers. We like to make this an interactive conversation every week. We kick off the week. It's why I like to hold my podcast on a Monday. Gives us some time to sort out our feels on some of the tech news from the last week. Maybe some news broke over the weekend. But as I'm trying to get us back into the habit, I used to have this as a really nice running tradition that the last podcast of every month, we could kind of let our hair down a little. If you still have hair, unlike your host here, where we have a pajama podcast. And maybe I put on a hoodie, but I am actually still wearing my pajamas. So we like to make this one a little bit more casual. The chat can kind of take more of the lead on the topics and where the conversation goes. We can focus on tech. We can follow up on phones and gadgets and reviews. We can talk about what's in production, or we can just totally stray. And if we want to have a 2 hour chat about video games and music and TV and movies and stuff like that, we can let it go there too. I still do want to knock out a little bit of housekeeping. There are two stories in the title of this podcast that I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on. But I just think they're nice to follow up with what's going on, and maybe that might kick off some other discussion that we'll want to continue with. But I'm already seeing a really fun group of names here in the chat. I'm seeing Jimmy Fire Dragon, I'm seeing Simon Says Hypno, John Gow, Darcy, Charlie Spirit Song, Tangential Tesseract, Swiper 1911, and I'm missing someone. And Jack. Jack Keaton was in the chat too. Everybody, I hope you're having a lovely morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where in the world you might be catching this stream. And then for anyone who's catching the audio replay or the video replay after the fact, I hope you're also having a lovely day too. And yeah, we're having weather here in Southern California, so please, I apologize in advance. So please excuse, I will probably have numerous dropouts just because I can already feel my face is like real itchy, and just we've got rain and winds and like stuff happening here. Apparently the polar vortex collapsed and we're going to have a revisit of winter. Weather is getting real freaky like weather do these days. But it also means like I don't want to be displaying my biology during the stream. So if you suddenly hear the audio cut out, it's probably because I had to sniffle or like sneeze or cough real hard or something like that. So again, just my apologies up front. I hope everybody had a lovely weekend. We had a lot of softball as we're finishing up Rec League, and Lex is just really digging it. Um, it's one of those like proud papa moments where she's like asking to go out and maybe just play a little catch to get some extra reps in. Today, as my wife was dropping Lex off at school, she said, "Hey, after school, instead of doing this other thing, do you think maybe Daddy could take me to the batting cages?" And I, like, it's everything I can do to hold back the dad feels. Like, yes, darling, you may have anything you want. Batting cages it is. So we're having a real good time with it. My body's falling apart. I cannot keep up with the athleticism of 7 to 9 year olds. So I'm trying to get my soggy bottom back in shape. But anyway, I hope everybody is doing well out there. I want to jump right into to a little housekeeping. I'm getting some interesting projects out, and I'm having a lot of fun with some of the responses. But there's a lot. Um, I don't know. There's like the vibe for this year just feels off. And I think we've been saying this for the last couple years. Like, oh, I think the window on phone releases has accelerated. Over the last 2 years, we've seen a number of manufacturers, especially international, start putting phones out at the end of a calendar year to get ready for the next model year, kind of like car strategies. Your 2025 phone was actually released in November of 2024. And it's putting a lot of pressure on companies, especially like Samsung, Google, and Apple, in really funky ways. It kind of throws off our timing. It kind of throws off what our expectations should be. Do you wait for this other phone, or are you already ahead of the curve with something else? And so it's tough to get a handle on like what's going to be a trending topic, what are the conversations we should be having, and also like the business of this is affected by that. You don't want to come in cynically and say like, well, if I can't get paid, I don't want to make this video. But after a point, man, if you put out video after video after video and none of them are hitting, but you took the time to really try and do a good researched practical experiential video, and it wasn't just I did an ASMR unboxing short. Maybe I just need to do ASMR unboxing shorts. I hate them so much. I can't think of anything I would want to spend time with less, producing or consuming. But if that's the only thing that's going to get traffic, maybe that's the only video that needs to be out for this phone. And I say things like that, and I worry people like, take me as I'm just kind of being snarky or something like that. But we regularly go out there and say, hey, if you care about this kind of video, you've got to share it, you've got to support it. But then I'll go to threads and my feed is full of just low effort engagement bait and low effort shorts and just, ooh, look, I'm taking this thing out of a box. And that's just never been my bag. I've just never been that guy. I hate it so much. Simon says, Hypno, we love your shorts, Juan. I got to get myself back in shape if you want to see what kind of shorts I'm wearing now. All right, knock out a little housekeeping here. Let's just get this out of the way. Let me get this set up. Darcy, my 3-year-old loves ASMR unboxing shorts. Darcy, do not feed your kids garbage. Help them develop good taste. No, Darcy, don't set them up for a lifetime of failure. Don't make them the weird kid. All right, I like I said, we had a number of things go out. I want to scroll down. We'll knock this one out first. When you need 32 terabytes of storage fast, the Acasis 4-bay Thunderbolt 4 NVMe RAID enclosure. The really funky thing about this one is there's no good title for it. There's no good, how do I describe what this thing is? And if I just tell you what this thing is, then there's like no search for it. But there's this company, Acasis, and they make these really cool little enclosures. You put in an NVMe drive, it can be a hub or a dock or like this, just a really big RAID box. Actually, a really little RAID box for really big storage. And it's like, I had to go super gimmicky with their last product. The dock that Apple won't sell you for your MacBook. And didn't even put the name of the company in the title. And I might need to go and do something like that with this too. If I just tell you what the video is about, then YouTube says no one wants to watch that video. If I say, Apple is holding back from you the best accessory you've never seen, and then I get a ton of traffic. Do we want that to be the channel? I don't want that to be the channel. But here is a beautifully machined aluminum enclosure, totally toolless chassis. You can put 4 NVMe drives in here, up to 32 terabytes of storage. It is crazy fast. It's just an impressive piece of accessory machining. And I just want to tell people, hey, this thing is cool. And I can't. That's not how you get views on YouTube. Also, this video, I had a lot of fun putting it together. The Xiaomi 15 Ultra photography kit. Why won't phone brands make better accessories? And this got a little bit of traffic just at the tail end of any kind of interest in the Xiaomi 15 Ultra as a search topic. But this is actually kind of a longer video. It's it's like to try and showcase, where is my Xiaomi 15? I've got it over here. So to kind of show like what I think is actually kind of cool about this, did my camera just lose focus on my face? Come on, mirrorless camera that's supposed to be better than my phones. Focus on my face. Um, what I actually think is really interesting about this style of product is this is often what other manufacturers rely on third party sources to fulfill. So, like Apple, it makes Apple look really cool. It gives Apple a lot of cachet if there are a ton of different case options and if there are a bunch of different accessory options and rigs and cages and all that gear. Apple didn't need to make it because their product is just so desirable that every manufacturer wants to make accessories for the iPhone. It gives it that kind of special secret sauce feel, right? Well, if you're Xiaomi, there aren't a lot of brands looking to make those kinds of accessories. So, starting with the 13 Ultra, starting with the 13 Ultra, they started making their own system so that you could put on filters and plates and different lens accessories. Moment wasn't doing it. Ulanzi isn't doing it. All of these other brands that are starting to play with their own mobile accessories division for photography, no one else was doing it. So Xiaomi did it. And then you could start getting really cool accessories because Xiaomi already did the work to make at least a plate, a mount, and a case system that then you could kind of build off of, right? And so from the 13 Ultra to the 14 Ultra to now the 15 Ultra, we've seen the iteration on that, the improvements on that. And so the video has to take a little time because I wanted to show why this was important. It's important because it's first party. Samsung doesn't make a crazy awesome photography case. Pixel, the Google team, doesn't make a crazy awesome photography case. So this is kind of a big deal. And now hopefully I'm hoping that other companies will piggyback, kind of disassemble the Xiaomi case and then make their own. So Photor Gear is the company. Like when I'm holding up my 13 Ultra, there's a metal plate on the back of this, and that's a Photor Gear plate, which is really easy to fit Photor Gear lenses, macro lenses, and anamorphics. So in this video, while I'm ostensibly talking about the Xiaomi 15 Ultra photography kit, it's like you've got to kind of explain the evolution because it's gotten better with every iteration. The improvements have been more substantial. And then what the potential is that we might see even better accessories kind of coming off that. Simon says Hypno, the game-changing NOS that slays Apple. See, I need to see again. NOS is really cute and punchy, but the Acasis is just an enclosure. I need to come up with something that bad and that clickbaity for the Acasis. But when you say it's a 4-bay RAID enclosure. Again, it's like it's hurting my brain. How do I make that the stupidest YouTube title ever so that people have to click on it because they don't know what it is or what I'm talking about? It's like the only educational opportunity we have left is to confuse someone on YouTube so bad that they have to click on the video. And I I get it, you want to make fun of like Alina's tech tips, but if you don't completely bait the hook as awful and as visceral, like the video has nothing to do with what that title and that thumbnail is all about. You know that the presentation of the video is a complete lie, but I'm just so curious what it could be about. And that's apparently the only way to kind of keep consistent traffic on YouTube these days. Okay. So the photography kit video, I was really happy with how that came out. Again, it's I I just feel it's so disheartening to see search traffic for the Xiaomi 15 Ultra basically done when it's probably the best phone of the year. Like we've had a couple weeks of this just being relevant in search, and now it's over as a topic. And I'm still finding reviews. Like people are still putting reviews out on it, which is heartening because it's now had two major updates that have significantly improved performance. But I'm still finding like, well, you could go with the Xiaomi or you could go with the much more polished Galaxy S25 Ultra. And you're like, you couldn't be bootlicking harder if you tried. So yeah, it's pretty great. Sick, Eric. I don't like doing shorts, but I still include unboxings. So early on in my channel, again, nothing against you. At this point, get the traffic that you can. I am holding to these patterns and these behaviors, and I'm trying to make the videos that I would want to watch, and I don't want to watch unboxings, so I'm gonna make fun of unboxings. But if they're working for you, do it. But early on this videos, in this video channel's history, I started doing box tossings because it's like for me, it's like I want to talk about the thing. I don't want anything slowing down the video. I want to jump right into what it was like to use it, my pros, my cons, my concerns. These are the things that really impressed me. And so I would like take the box and start like I was about to unbox it and then just throw it over my shoulder and then hold up the thing. And maybe I just need to get back into something like that that's a little cheekier. But yeah, it is what it is. I just like I don't have the patience to do it. And that's another thing too, is like the excitement of getting something to review. I still get that kind of thrill, and I don't want to get this package in. The FedEx just dropped it off. Now let me go up to my office and set up lights and set up a camera and take this thing out and make sure I've got like a succulent in the camera view and set this thing up, and then I can speed ramp it, and ooh, look, there's a phone in here, and then I'm done because that's all that's in the box. Unless it's a One Plus, and then I can show you a charger. And like that's just not. I don't have fun with that. I just want to like tear it open in my kitchen and start like powering it on and seeing what I can do with it. I'm just too impatient. Nick Gay, the through Jermaine's lens camera dive is nice. I mean, the only thing I mean, Jermaine does good work. I want to see people who are following it up. Was there an acknowledgement? I mean, I'm not tagging Jermaine. I'm actually tagging like massive tech reviewers. Like if you look at, don't go give them traffic, just believe me. The Wired review, wired.com, the Wired review for the Xiaomi 15 Ultra was a joint review. They reviewed the 15 Ultra and the 15 in the same article. And the article's like, I want to say 1,500 words. And still came to one of those conclusions like, well, the 15 is a good phone if you want something littler, and the 15 Ultra's got pretty good cameras, but you'd probably be better off with the Galaxy, blah, 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 blah. So this is a massive problem. I have not published my Xiaomi 15 video, my not a review. It's only available on the Patreon. I had it during the embargo period, and it got a massive update on the day it was announced that the embargo lifted. And the Xiaomi 15 Ultra just recently got another 1.3, 1.2 gig update. And let me tell you, I got the update, then took it out for another weekend, and camera performance is improved, overall performance is improved, processing performance when I'm running my tests for like video rendering, audio podcast mixing, batch photo processing, all of that's improved. It's a different phone. It is a very different phone today than it was 2 weeks ago. It's an incredibly different phone. It's a generationally more powerful device today than it was the day the embargo lifted. So why are we pretending that any of those embargo reviews are valuable estimations of the phone's experience? Literally no consumer who gets their hands on the phone will ever have experienced what the reviewers used during embargo. That is, it's literally a device that doesn't exist. The Xiaomi 15 Ultra running pre-release software will never have existed for consumers. And that's what they're going to see when they go and look up most of the reviews on that phone. And it's like, what are we doing? Why are we even pretending that this is valuable information, or we're educating consumers? It's all a lie. The game is totally rigged. It's only, is this profitable to talk about now? And do my Google Analytics show that I'll make money on this video? And all of it's going to plunge. All of it's just going to fall right off a cliff. As soon as the device is actually in a state where consumers can use it and they're starting to get the phone, they can actually order it and have the phone shipped to them. Now there's no money in it. See, now you don't have exclusivity on that commentary, but all of those reviewers, especially the Western reviewers, the American, Canadian, maybe some of the European reviewers, are they going back to tell you that you've got an almost generational improvement in performance, that the battery life has improved, that the camera processing has gotten better? Are they? I don't know. I'm not watching those channels anymore because typically I find that that kind of conversation is only reserved for the Google feature drops and the iOS updates and the One UI updates. We don't get the same, oh, Vivo put out a 2 gig patch. Wouldn't you want to know what a 2 gigabyte update is like on a Vivo or on a Xiaomi? Ostensibly, some of the best camera performers ever made. But now I get someone in my comments, oh, but the Vivo X200 Pro got a really low DxO score. And I literally, like, I couldn't help myself. I replied in the comments, like, well, I guess, Vivo doesn't pay for DxO consulting. I don't see why that would matter. Of course you don't. Of course you've started leaning into DxO scores as any kind of valuable metric of camera performance because it's a number. Oh, it's a DxO score of 90. I guess this camera's trash. I love it. It's so great. It's so hilarious. Hold on, let me drink some coffee here so you're not hearing me slurp. Michael, see, I turn off shorts entirely on my search feed and my subscription feed. I never turned on or reactivated my watch history. So when I go to YouTube, it's a blank page and I love it. I love it so much. I'm not going there for just random distraction. I'm going there because like I want to see if I can watch a new video from one of my friends. I get the notification in my RSS feed reader. Oh, cool. Red Letter Media has a new video out, and I'll go and watch that with purpose, and then I leave, and then I don't stay on YouTube. The other thing, because we're talking about performance on that Xiaomi there, the other video that was kind of a big deal for me. Let me scroll down here. Pixel update. Did performance really improve? And yet another conversation that I feel like we used to do this stuff. I know there's always been this YouTube fad of finding something that is visually interesting that then you can portray as some kind of performance metric. For we still see people doing, let me rapidly spastically open and close apps. That is no measure of performance. That has nothing to do with performance. It has everything to do with like caching an app in RAM, but that's not like a way to predict if one phone really will be more powerful than another phone. If one computer is more powerful than another. If you've got like 6 different programs running on your desktop, minimize them all and then open them and then minimize them and then open them. That computer must be better than another computer that did that slower. You see how silly that is? Would you trust a laptop reviewer if that was like one of the main visual metrics that they were using to demonstrate laptop performance? I mean, rightfully we would laugh that person off of the internet, right? It'd be like The Verge trying to tell you how to build a PC. It would get mocked deservingly. But we keep trying to do this low effort, low data point, inconsistent approach to judging phone performance. So right now it's like I run a Geekbench, I run an AN22, and I show you a couple 30 seconds or so of an anime babe running around a world like Genshin Impact, which does not help you at all. It does not tell you anything about what that phone can really do. There are some people who will use Genshin and then give you data. That helps. But when it's just, I did this thing and I showed you a big number score, what more do you want from me? And that reviewer is telling you that they don't actually use these devices. They don't do anything on them. So there is no point in buying $1,000 phone because they're using roughly $300 worth of phone as the reviewer. Their experience would be exactly the same on a mid a mid-tier Infinix as it would be on a $1,400 premium ultra experience phone. That's how much they're using the phone. And they're telling you that. I ran a Geekbench and I played a little Genshin, and that's, I guess, everything that people might do with their phones. And there's no other follow through. That's why, like so many Xiaomi reviewers, they got the big Geekbench score, but they couldn't tell you if performance was really good or not. Performance on the Xiaomi 15 during embargo was garbage. Performance on the Xiaomi 15 during embargo was worse than performance on the Xiaomi 14. So if we just stopped right there, the Xiaomi 15 was technically worse than a one generation downgrade. But did you hear that in these videos? Or did they just show you a big Geekbench score? If anyone did complain about performance or stability or, apps not working as well as they could, did they then follow up to say, after the update, it was like we got better than a one generation improvement? Because I don't think they did. So anyway, I'm getting off track here again. It's a pajama podcast. I'm already failing at this housekeeping thing. We're 20 minutes in. So yeah, whoever was saying over under 15 minutes for housekeeping, I'm way past that. The Pixel update gave us some bigger Geekbench scores. That's about it. So it is kind of nice. What Google did really was just kind of update GPU drivers. And that's always a good thing. It's good to see all the way back to the Pixel 6. We got these, more refined software experiences. A handful of games did see performance improvements, but any game that isn't specifically mentioned or referenced or optimized for, a lot of games actually got a downgrade. And what I feel Google was doing was trying to rein in heat at the high end of the Tensor chipset. And I've got a series of tests that can kind of show, oh, actually, the harder we push these phones, they're running slower than they did before the update, but they are running a bit more consistently. So they're picking a slower speed that helps them not overheat. That's actually not bad. But it does mean you lose out on that top high-end peak performance that the Pixel used to offer, which was already 2 to 3 generations behind Qualcomm, which is also yet another generation behind a Dimensity. The Dimensity 9400 is now like, if we look at numbers and we look at stats and what we usually see in yearly improvement, a Pixel 9 Pro XL is almost 4 generations behind a Dimensity 9400 if we're talking about compute power. And everyone's going to come in. I had I don't know that I want to screen share this, but I had someone like, oh, these splitting hairs analysis of specs and performance remind me of the same that goes on in the high-end race bike community. People are gonna sell like $30,000 bikes, but that's just for someone in the Tour de France. And I'm like, yeah, that's what my video's about. You're literally arguing with me when that's a major part of the video. And then he comes back and he's like, oh, see, I don't even play that game because I have a Pixel 8a, which is exactly what I say in the video. That if you don't care about having laptop grade performance in your pocket, you would be happier with a Pixel A series. Get the Pixel A series. If you're not really using ultra expensive phone hardware to its capabilities, you're not going to notice the difference between a Pixel 9, a Pixel 9 Pro, or a Pixel 9a. It doesn't matter that the camera sensors are a little bit better on the Pixel 9 versus the Pixel 9a. The image processing is so heavy-handed, it's very subtle what kinds of differences you're going to see in that overall experience. And then he keeps arguing. He keeps arguing against me when he obviously hasn't seen the video. And that's why YouTube content creators get burned out. There's like a glimmer of hope that this is someone who might be able to see, but there's no self-awareness that they are literally arguing my point from the video and then making it sound like I'm the one who's being unreasonable by showing you what the race bike can really do. I'm not the one trying to sell the race bike to your auntie. I'm the one saying, hey, if you want to see what the capabilities of this high end device are, then we should treat it like a high end device. And we should use it to the upper limits of its capabilities, not, well, I like opened some TikTok on it and I shot a terribly composed photo of my lunch for Instagram. And it's really good. You really want the Pixel 9 Pro if you're doing, really basic, low level, sub idiot consumer stuff on your phone. That's how you should do it. You're like, what are. All right. So anyway, I muted that guy. I'm just like, I never need to see a comment from you ever again. And so that person is now gone. And again, it's not like I'm saying I want to brigade people on my YouTube comments, but like, man, a little backup from time to time would be nice. Oh, we're seeing some fun folks in the chat. I see Colin just jumped in, got Brian Glaze, JJ4884, Jason McMeekin, sorry, Stevie Coleman, Schlungy Shaloob. DxO is the Antutu of phone cameras. Yeah, they are. I used to try and dig into like what is it that DxO is really trying to show me, and it was the Xiaomi 13, where they were trying to make these points, Xiaomi versus Huawei, and they were using Huawei photos at the native resolution of each camera sensor and then matching the Xiaomi, which required cropping. So they were cropping photos from the Xiaomi and comparing against the native resolution of the Huawei, and shock, surprise, they were saying the Huawei had better cameras. And you're like, I don't even know that you know how bad your comparison is there. So there's been literally no educational benefit that I've been able to find in any kind of consistency. Like if your idea of I'm going to spend $1,200, $1,400 on a Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and then I'm going to use it in the lowest, most basic way possible. I'm going to pull it from pocket, push shutter, not look at the composition, not tap to focus, barely even reference the screen. And that's what you think is going to make your photos better, is that you spent more on the phone. Then I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your experience gets capped at like $300. If you're that bad at taking photos, you're going to be that bad at taking photos with an inexpensive phone, or I could give you, like a a Sony full frame mirrorless, and your photos will still be that bad. If you're leaning into the features that are unique and you're trying to push what your composition can look like, then there is a good reason to spend more on an ultra tier phone. You can get more out of it, but it's like you have to have that vision in your head, and you also have to have some reasonable expectation on what the phone's going to do to the images. Like I've been showing on the Discord, I just shared a photo of a rose. I shot it in RAW, but the Xiaomi still produces a JPEG, and the JPEG processing was just way too ratcheted. Like whatever Xiaomi is doing with Leica Vibrant is just kind of gross. I really don't like it. I don't like the Leica Vibrant. I like the Leica Authentic. But I pull this raw file and then I just do kind of like a quick and dirty edit in Photomate, and it's so much better. The detail is so much crisper. The contrast is livelier. I toned down the saturation and vibrance is just I think it's a lovely representation of a pink and white rose on my feed. So again, it's like I wanted to capture something different. If I just left it up to the phone, I would have hated that shot. And that's where you start going. It's like you can't be afraid to like edit a little or process something. It's pretty rough. I'm so disappointed. I put two phones side by side, and you can tell by the pixels that the phone that I actually composed with took better shots, and then the other phone that I just pushed the shutter button from has a terrible composed image, and it's just not as good. So because I'm a terrible photographer, one phone is better than the other. Nick Gay. Most reviewers I've seen have said Galaxy software, One UI, is better, but camera, everyone says, is better than North American phones. I mean, I guess. I mean, like, part of the problem is there's so much that's happening with things like AI being such a miserable talking point right now. There are a lot of the new features on the Xiaomi that I think are kind of useless, right? I'm not impressed. But I think it's a little disingenuous because, like, also, Samsung finally optimized and cleaned up their animation engine. And they're getting all of this credit for having a smoother, more fluid experience now, which is something that OnePlus did like 3 years ago, which is something that Xiaomi did like 2 years ago. And so now they're getting to move the goalposts. Now that Samsung has finally done it, now we really do appreciate a more fluid UI with better animations and crisper gestures and all that stuff. But that didn't really matter because One UI had more features when Xiaomi was smoother. You see how you can always kind of redirect? And again, I'm telling you, two big updates already on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. It is a completely different phone. So if people are saying, oh no, Galaxy S25 is just so much better polished, when there are a lot of complaints still about One UI, right? It's a pretty heavy skin. And you're not going back and showing me the same evolution on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, then you're doing that thing that I was just referencing. Every update for Samsung gets this praise and attention, and it's easy traffic, and we know Samsung fans will click on it. But those are brand fans, not tech fans. Because if you're a tech fan, then you'd also be interested in what two massive updates for the Xiaomi would deliver. Like, you'd care about both. If I put out a Pixel performance update video, that's going to get some traffic. And I literally show you on video how things have kind of slowed down a bit. It didn't actually get more powerful. It got a bit better consistent, but is that really what you're spending $1,100 on? $1,100 on a phone for it to be as fast as a 3 generation old Qualcomm, and the big performance update slowed it down even just a little bit more so it doesn't run as hot. Are you happy with $1,100 for base level storage on that kind of an experience? I'm not. If I spend $1,100 on a phone, I want it to start competing with laptops. But I do things with my phone, I guess. Yeah, Anthony, it's so hard finding good videos on follow up after the device initially releases. I mean, I've been on a couple friend podcasts. These are good friends of mine. It was when Oxygen OS and Color OS officially merged, and we got Color OS on the same animation engine as Oxygen OS. Yes, we lost some of those customization features that people were all up in their feels about. And oh, I just think stock Android's so much better. And I was asking them, like, it was almost a year later, we were about to get the next OnePlus, and you're like, yeah, did you ever go back and update your phone? And like, the new animation engine's really pretty. It's like, oh, I don't bother with OnePlus after we're done reviewing it. Like, literally, if I had booted up their OnePlus, it would have been in exactly the same state as it was during the embargo. And like, right now, my personal SIM is in my OnePlus 13. I've been getting all the updates. I've been getting all the patches. I've been updating the apps that OnePlus will update through the Google Play Store. My daughter is putting stickers that rapidly age on the back of my case. This phone has been lived in. And let me tell you, it is a different experience today than it was at launch. But I can't make any money on telling you that as a standalone YouTube video. Techies won't watch that video. So what do? I guess we just sit on it. And I'll make the Pixel performance update video and throw cold water on a bunch of people saying, oh, it's like my phone got so much faster. I was like, you got 3 more frames per second in Genshin. Let's not go too crazy here. So, Colin Murphy, my YouTube history is only really useful to tell me what I've slept through. If you're using your YouTube like that, what I would recommend is going through your list of subscriptions, picking out like your top ride or die channels. I mean, obviously mine's going to be on that list. But then go and get an RSS feed reader. Seriously, like interact directly with those RSS feeds and you will do better giving your favorite creators traffic. You won't get distracted by stupid suggestions on YouTube proper and you'll actually get notified. Right now, there are a bunch of channels you're probably not getting notifications on. When they put out a new video, even if you've smashed that bell icon, YouTube decides for you what you should be interested in. And they want to maximize time on site. They're doing the same misery mechanics that Facebook was doing when they were experimenting on Facebook users. So if you really want to know what's going on with your subscription feed, YouTube is actually the worst place to go. Go get a free RSS feed reader. You can go to F-Droid. There are a bunch of really good, just simple, basic. You put in the YouTube channel, it'll find an RSS feed for that channel, and then when that channel puts out a new video, that's when you can go back through and see, oh yeah, I did actually miss something from Hugh Jeffries. When was the last time y'all caught a Hugh Jeffries video? Can anyone tell me what his current video is? I'm going to count down. I know there's probably like a 20-second delay, especially between Twitch and YouTube. I know what the most recent Hugh Jeffries video is. Who can just tell me off the top of their head? Hugh Jeffries is one of the best resources online for right to repair, repairability, disassembly. Are Samsung and Apple messing with your parts and serializing components so that you can't do repairs on your own? What does it look like to keep these devices running? I mean, that's a channel that has high value, beautiful production value, informed commentary. No one knows more about these devices than Hugh Jeffries. But you know, he doesn't do an inconsistent bend test and he doesn't hold a lighter on the screen. So I don't think he's as fun. I just want the fun. It doesn't tell you anything, but gets lots of channels because we love watching people destroy gadgets. What are we doing now? Holla at your boy. What's up, man? It's good to see you. Um, yeah, Brian Glaze. It's so silly when you articulate it like that way because it truly is a laughable metric. The low effort content is exactly why people have stopped watching smartphone review content, and it's so sad. They don't actually review the device. And again, it's like if we're talking about consumers making a purchasing decision, I'm going to get that viewer once every 2 to 3 years. If they even find one of my reviews for a phone they might be interested in. But it's the tech audience, the people who are entertained by tech videos, that drive the path of the discussion. So if we just have a whole bunch of people that want to watch ASMR unboxings and see bend gadget destruction videos, then that's what YouTube is going to front because YouTube wants to maximize time on site. And someone who is knowledgeable, articulate, and can show like white glove disassembly and reassembly in beautifully shot video, someone like a Hugh Jeffries or an iFixit, they're going to get a tenth, at best, they're going to get a tenth of the viewership of someone just going, yeah, I broke this phone. I tried to break it and it broke. Wahapa! You know, like, that's dumb. That's so dumb. It's not, I mean, that is actually, you know, like when you go to YouTube as you're a creator, that's what they call content. It's just disposable garbage, not anything that's going to help you understand what's going on with these devices. Michael C. Sometimes I look at my YouTube history just to see how long I've slept. I love it. From Charlie Spirit Song. If we use a car analogy, it's better to drive in a consistent motion than to drive fast for 10 minutes, then drive like a snail for the next 30 minutes before repeating the same thing over and over and over again. So, yes, but I'll put it this way. So, like, if I compare a Dimensity 9400 to a Pixel 9 Pro XL, I can put a 1 minute video into LumaFusion. And it's not just 1 minute of video, it is 100 megabit per second video from a mirrorless camera. It's 6 clips, 10-second clips with fade transitions, a watermark, and a music bed. I put a soundtrack on it. And I feel like that's a good representation of a high quality short. You want to put a really good, not just I cut a minute of video, but a really good, I edited, watermarked it. I'm making this look like a professional video short for Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. I feel like that's a good representation of what someone might want to accomplish as a project on their phone. Same thing, like a family Christmas video. Shoot a bunch of little clips like, oh, ornaments on the tree and people laughing at the dinner table and going in for hugs and opening up a present, and like make a 1 minute montage of your last family Christmas. That is a beautifully edited 1 minute piece. And then we render it to a really high quality to share on social media, on YouTube, or just directly. If I just want to send you the video, it's a 50 megabit per second bit rate. So what you're saying is correct. I want to drive more in more constant motion for 10 minutes, then drive like a snail for the next 30 before repeating the same thing over and over again. But if I put that project on my Vivo, that project is done in 16 seconds. If I put that project on my Pixel, that video is done in 33 seconds. So I never get to the point where the Dimensity is going to overheat. If in I'm doing a minute of video in half the time, and I know it takes roughly, what is it? It's like under 600 seconds. So I know it's roughly 8 minutes where the Dimensity can run pretty full bore. I mean, again, in reasonable atmospheric conditions. It's like 75 degrees Fahrenheit in my office. So if I'm running on my batch photo processing test, it's roughly 8 minutes that the Dimensity is running like full bore before I really start to see the effects of thermal throttling. So in that 8 minutes, I can render 16 minutes of 4K 50 megabit per second video with rich transitions, where in that same amount of time, I'm going to do half as much video on a Pixel. And that Pixel's probably going to overheat sooner than the Dimensity will. Anything that's fabbed to Samsung versus fabbed to TSMC is going to overheat sooner. So it's like in your car analogy, it's like I've got a car that struggles to like complete a quarter mile versus a car that can do it really, really fast. I'm not really doing that analogy justice, but it's hard to put all those pieces in motion and properly explain like what it is that you see. Cause man, it's it's like I can say things like it's a three to four generation difference in performance. It is, yes, a Dimensity can be worked to a point where it overheats, but by the time it's gotten to that point, you have done so much more work that it's like a diesel truck. It might overheat on the freeway if you're maxing it out full throttle for a whole stretch of highway, but man, did it accomplish so much more than like the daily driver average consumer car could do before it also started thermal throttling. Anyway, I'm even getting off track for me getting off track. Oh, Michael C. And again, this is something I kind of wish developers would pay more attention to also. I wish, Michael C says, I just wish Android rewarded higher performance with more options. I feel the performance isn't bottlenecked by the OS 90% of the time. Um, Again, that's why I kind of point to content creation as something you can do on your phone that your phone is really good at. If you think you want to do something like a podcast or an interview, the audio recording capabilities directly from your mobile are phenomenal. And your phone doesn't make any noise. It's like you can go in with a MacBook Air and record good audio, and you know you're not going to have your fans kick on. Anything with a fan, though, will eventually kick on in a long form recording, unless you record from something like a phone or a tablet, and that gets the job done beautifully and silently. So, like one of the last, again, I kind of point to this years back. I was still at Newegg, and I did that interview with the audiologist. That was recorded from my phone. I had wireless lavs plugged into, what was it? It was an LG, but I can't remember which one. I want to say it was the LG, it might have been the LG V40 at the time. I can't remember. But yeah, that was all recorded in Audio Evolution. And guess what? My phone makes no noise. So we were in these audio therapy rooms. So at UCLA, they have these really beautifully sound treated, almost anechoic chamber silent rooms. So anything that would have kicked on would have been immediately apparent in the recording. Even from a lav, the whole room was so quiet, like I was picking up movement and slight rustling off of her lav from the people that were running camera for me at the time. So a laptop fan would have been horrifically distracting. And my phone made zero noise. Again, like we look at these things and we kind of dismiss or shrug off. They are silent, they are more discreet. You pick up a big old bulky camera and eyes are zeroing in on you. Why are you pointing a camera in my direction? Yeah, hey, let me just get a cute little photo from my phone because it's not like a real camera, it's just a phone camera. And then everyone just ignores while we hold up phones. And exactly the same thing holds true for a lot of other higher level content creation situations. You want something discreet for an interview, you just clip one of these like little magnetic cameras to some magnetic microphones to someone, pop that receiver into your phone, just push record, and we're having a casual conversation. This is really chill. You don't have to worry about it. I don't have like a whole setup. You're not sitting in front of some broadcast mic. Don't worry about it. We're just kind of shooting. Yeah, I'm like trying not to swear, but anyway. So we don't value that nearly enough, and our phones are actually better at that in a lot of situations. But you won't know that if you don't try to do things with your phone. Um, oh, Michael C. I understood what you said. Yeah, the operating system is the bottleneck. But really, I feel like there's a lot of developer interest where it wouldn't be tremendously difficult to be bringing higher level experiences to Android. If we already look at the improvements recently for gaming, over the last 5 years, look at how much more advanced mobile games have gotten. It is not particularly difficult to port a really intense PC game to Android. Increasingly, it's little things like if the app developer were to take advantage of video output modes, there's nothing stopping them from like a DaVinci Resolve. The iPad experience for DaVinci Resolve could absolutely run on an Android phone. Would you want to edit on the phone screen? No, that would be pretty miserable. But I could plug my phone into another monitor and have a little Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and I would have that experience up on a huge display. The phone, even Android, isn't really a substantial bottleneck. It's getting developers interested in bringing some of those experiences over and understanding that they do have some of these tools. Like, look at LumaFusion. LumaFusion, I plug it into another monitor, and my main video editing is on the phone. And then on the monitor, I have a full size preview. It is a different view. I'm not mirroring the phone, I'm just projecting my preview window to a larger display. So why couldn't we reverse those? Flip them. So then I could edit from the larger display and have my little video preview on the phone screen. It would work. You just have to get a developer interested in actually doing it. Yeah, holler at your boy, LMAO. You muted him. After a point, it's like there's no reason to continue this conversation, and I genuinely just don't want someone like that in my comments. Someone who's just argumentative and is confident in their ignorance is always bad for any kind of community conversation. It's like why bother expending the time? Oh, JJ4884. Yeah. Again, and think of all the editorials we saw that went light on this. JJ says also Pixel 10 is supposedly using a MediaTek modem instead of Qualcomm. This sounds awesome. So I still think Qualcomm can probably eke out efficiency wins and improvements. I think Qualcomm is still probably your absolute best pick, but at the highest price premium. And then it really seems like Google does not want to be doing business with Qualcomm. As much as they can minimize it, they want to have their own support in house. They want licensing in house. They don't want to have to depend on Qualcomm for extended software, driver, firmware support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say a very, very close second in the premier space of component performance, MediaTek just rocks Samsung. It's not close. When I'm talking about these like 2 to 4 generation differences, I can put a SIM card in my Pixel 9 Pro XL and really struggle with the terrible reception out here in the burbs. And then I can put the SIM card in an import phone like my Vivo X200 Pro, which does not have full support for all of the bands on T-Mobile out here, and it's getting noticeably better reception. Sometimes like a 6 to 8 decibel improvement. Decibels are logarithmic. So that's a really big improvement in radio reception, which means my Vivo is also going to use less power connecting out to the terrible cell phone towers out here in my neighborhood. And everyone's like, oh, the Pixel 9 got so much better. It got better relative to the Pixel 8, but that Samsung radio is still pretty trash. Like, it's not good. It's at least 2 generations behind these chips that we say are so prone to overheating, but still do way more efficiently. So anyway, I don't know, it's really frustrating. Oh, I don't have anyone that's trying to help out. Possible ban evader, and they're monitoring this. Let's just go ahead and ban this channel here on the Twitch. I'm way behind the chat, so if y'all are catching, if y'all are catching some kind of like spam or bots or something like that, you just let me know. I'll eventually get there in the chat. It's pretty rough. Oh, this would drive me crazy. From Schlungy, they also complain about bad bokeh when they take photos of people with the main camera and a person in the background is blurred. And you're like, yeah, that's because you're using a phone with a 1-inch type sensor. I that's another one. Like, I just don't know that I have the energy in me to keep correcting this stuff. Like on the Vivo, I was so proud of how that Vivo camera review came out. I'm now really starting in earnest to collect all my samples for the Xiaomi camera review now that we've had big updates and the camera performance is improved. And I was trying to explain things like, yes, they are close in equivalent focal length and in equivalent aperture, but the look of a Vivo X100 Pro from the main sensor versus the X200 Pro from the main sensor are still different. And you can do the really gimmicky side by side and look, you can barely see any differences. And if you want to, you can also kind of rig it because the focal lengths are just slightly different enough that as you're repositioning each phone, it's easy to kind of push one phone. Like you could push the X200 just a little closer, literally in the distance that I'm moving my hand here. Just like the width of your hand pushed forward and the width of your hand pulled back from the X100 Pro and completely eliminate the perceived difference in background blur in bokeh. It is that easy to, again, I'm not saying anyone's rigging a comparison, but it's that easy to massage. It's that easy, or especially by accident. I take this photo and I put this phone down and I pick up another phone, and just that difference, I might subtly have pushed in a little bit more. Even if you're trying to stage them individually, it's really easy to favor one phone or make one phone look a little bit better. But when you really hold them off, and like I had them locked down on tripods, and I was trying to show like this is what it looks like if you try to do bokeh balls, out of focus lights. This is what you can show, like what the quality of that's going to look like. And when you have a smaller sensor, those lights don't look as pretty as when you have a larger sensor. The exact same thing is true with the telephoto sensors. The X100 Pro out of focus bokeh ball lights don't look as pretty on that telephoto as they do on the X200 Pro. Gee, there seems to be some kind of consistency when we talk about larger sensors and prettier photography. And then you're going to get someone's like, "Oh, but why would I want to go somewhere and have a blurry background?" And I was like, "Well, it's because you're an idiot. It's because you're real stupid." I mean, it's just fundamentally you're asking a question that is advertising how dumb you are in terms of photography, and that's fine. You can be confidently ignorant in your assessment and your opinions, but it's things like if I want to take a photo of someone and there's a famous landmark behind them, I know how to get the best results from a camera with a fixed aperture. You could ask the question instead of just saying, "Oh, but that's so dumb. Why would you want it to be blurry?" Or you could say, is there a way that we can fulfill this, or is there a way that we can do this so that I can preserve those details or those images? There might be a mode on the camera that has like a stacked image. There could just be better technique. Maybe it's a problem of where you're putting your subject in relation to the background. There's technique that can help you with that. But you can't get there if you just walk in and be like, "But I'm super dumb and I don't know anything about this stuff." But you're wrong. And then you just get muted on my channel. Brian Glaze, this phone is best for people like me who don't know how to use camera hardware. That's what I hear. They are actively telling you that, and you should believe them. I love it. uh, no, Nick Gay again. I guess like again, I'm trying to shortcut some of this because like spelling out all of the relationships in every single comment is just exhausting, and I don't like doing it. I understand what you're saying. Nick Gay says Samsung didn't really improve the animation engine. Android 15 did most of the work. I despise Samsung as a corporation. I really feel they have done a massive disservice to premium tier Android. I think their coasting and Apple copying hurts those of us who are enthusiasts of pocket mobile computing. I really don't feel like they're bringing their best, and I think they're coasting on an iteration on this line of devices, which isn't particularly special or exciting. And I think they could be doing more in the market, especially in their marketing, to bring visibility to cool things that make their products different than the iPhone. And I think they're failing at that because what they really want most is to be the iPhone of Android. And I think that's a terrible business strategy that has obviously cost them over the last 5 generations of Galaxy phones. But when techies say things, and I'm not picking on you, Nick, because I've heard this from a lot of other people. Samsung didn't really improve the animation engine. Android 15 did most of the work. I disagree. Android 15 helps a lot with the underpinning and performance of what you put on top of it. But I don't want to dismiss how radical the changes have been in One UI 7 that are taking advantage of the improvements in Android 15. To that point, OnePlus deserves a ton more credit than what they got for how they massaged Color OS, brought it to Oxygen OS before Android was really helping these other manufacturers improve the fluidity of their device. So I don't think it's Xiaomi versus Samsung or OnePlus versus Samsung. I think the closest corollary to that would actually be Vivo versus Samsung. Vivo's biggest improvements to FunTouch came with Android 14 and now into Android 15. The improvements to the animation, fluidity, bringing gestures. Remember, FunTouch used to have none of this. And is in that transition from Android 14 to 15 that now when you swipe up on a Vivo, you can take it to a split screen just like you can do a floating window in OnePlus. So really I feel like Samsung and Vivo were super conservative in what they were doing with their skins until they got some of this work from Android and it helped facilitate improving the user experience. I think Xiaomi and Oppo and OnePlus deserve a lot more credit for getting ahead. But I still don't want to minimize the incredible amount of work it is to refine a layer on top of Android that does so much stuff. Like FunTouch is almost like a full practical operating system on top of Android, on top of a Linux kernel. One UI is almost an entirely new software platform on top of Android, on top of a Linux kernel. And that takes an army of work to do little things better, right? It's an incredible amount of effort to enact even small changes when that's your hierarchy. And then you also know you're responsible for pushing out millions of devices every fiscal quarter. Like that is it's incredible to me that anything actually gets made and shipped and distributed to consumers. If you think about the entire logistics nightmare that one device brings to the table, I can't really even comprehend. The numbers are too big. It blows my mind sometimes that anything gets done. And yet here we are. Every week we get to talk about a new phone launch, and you're like, how did these companies really do stuff like that? It's wild. It really is wild. Um, from Charlie, again, I think this is a fair point too. I think the problem is manufacturers want to sell more different types of devices after going in the direction of the phone does everything, and that's why innovation slowed down, and manufacturers are just virtue signaling updates instead of actually designing BDGGPPP, better and more powerful smartphones. Sorry, there was a second part to Charlie's comment, and my feed finally caught up with it. No, I think that's fair too. I just think right now, what I see are a lot of companies that just want to try and emulate Apple's success. Phone that does phone things, a tablet that does tablet things, a laptop that does laptop things, a desktop that does desktop things, accessories that are bespoke for each individual device and come with huge licensing fees for accessory manufacturers to also like get a cut so Apple can get money from every part of every transaction of every accessory app um, bit of what their ecosystem represents. And I really feel Android was at their most fun and at their most disruptive when we really were. Like you were saying, now it's a lot of virtue signaling. Oh, there's so much choice in Android. But in North America, not really. Kinda. Probably not. Both Google and Samsung are trying to emulate Apple's success. And their approach to accessories is doing some of that too. I don't want a Galaxy Watch if it only has full support for a Galaxy phone. Right now, we do not have FDA approval for a standalone medical grade ECG scan on the OnePlus Watch 3. But right now, I can go into my OnePlus Watch, go into my apps, and do a health check. And wouldn't you know it, let's get started. Touch the button. Oh, and there's my ECG. I'm doing an ECG scan right now. I can take this data to my doctor and say, hey, this is what's going on. It's not a standalone medical grade FDA approved ECG scan like a Pixel Watch or a Galaxy Watch, but I still have it and it's still functional and I can still use it. And I can show my doctor when I'm having issues if I'm having issues with AFib. It's right there. Done. Like it's still there. I'm going to go ahead and end the scan. It takes like 30 seconds. Go back, end this measurement. There we go. Good. So I don't want Galaxy earbuds that have impressive audio codec capabilities, but I can only use that codec if I pair my earbuds with a Galaxy phone. Then if I leave and I want to try a OnePlus or a Pixel, I lose the functionality of the accessory that I bought. And that's what I'm really upset with Samsung for falling in line with. Used to be, Samsung was afraid of being accused of copying the iPhone. There were the lawsuits. Oh no, rounded corner app bubble designs and rounded rectangles for phone design. Samsung is just a cheap copy of the iPhone. And then Samsung went off on a tear trying to make their devices as different from the iPhone as they possibly could. And wouldn't you know it, that was the window of the highest level of success for Samsung's most expensive devices. And every year that they've been in this iterative, remove features, make things more ecosystem-y like Apple, we've seen sales drop and kind of bottom out. Now, it's not like they're still losing a tremendous amount of market share, but they're still getting eaten up by Xiaomi and Vivo and Oppo and all these other companies that are now toe-to-toe directly competing and besting what Samsung can put out with an iterative yearly upgrade where, yet again, they had to remove features from their most expensive phone. That's not exciting. I'm not excited by that. I'm not interested by that. You can't ecosystem me when I can go leave Samsung, get a brilliant smartwatch, get great earbuds, get good cases, find other accessories. If I need to, I'll add a magnetic ring to the back of my case so I too can play with MagSafe accessories, or I can like look at other features and cases that have that stuff built in. I can leave the Samsung ecosystem and still keep all my Androidy stuff in about the same place. But we don't get a lot of that competition here in the United States. So that's kind of the bummer. Oh, Michael C. immediately after that last comment was already talking about even Flossie Carter has to say that the only reason Samsung is still his favorite phone is because of ecosystem, the very same thing he used to mock Apple for. And I don't think that so I'm not defending Flossie Carter here. Flossie can stand up for himself. He's a big boy. He can handle his own internet beef. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of interoperability and accessories that are purpose built. I was just holding up the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. I wish more phone manufacturers would make really good photography accessories for their own phones. First party. We don't have to rely on waiting for a maybe third-party accessory to come for an expensive device. I'm not opposed to that. What I'm upset by is a business practice that hurts the consumer if they try to leave the ecosystem. If I could install Samsung Music Player on my OnePlus, and then when I put in my Galaxy Buds, the Samsung Music Player on my OnePlus goes, I know what audio codec this is, let's turn on high quality, I don't think I'd be as bothered. It would be annoying, that would be kind of stupid, but I would still have the full capability of that accessory on a competing device. Less good, but still I didn't lose functionality by trying to leave the ecosystem. If the Samsung Galaxy Watch app on my OnePlus could read the ECG without me finding a cracked version of that APK for my health data, I love that as the security nerd that I am. Let's really let my heart rate data go through an APK that's been cracked open. Cool, that's awesome. I love that. If I could just use the full capabilities of the watch on another device, then I wouldn't be as pissy about ecosystem. I would wholly expect that the experience would be the best going Galaxy Watch, Galaxy Buds, Galaxy Phone. That makes perfect sense to me. The experience between OnePlus tablet, OnePlus earbuds, OnePlus watch, OnePlus phone is great. It is really great. I've got a little NFC tag on the keyboard of my OnePlus pad, and I take my OnePlus phone and I tap the two together and they start talking to each other and it's brilliant. Awesome. But if I take this OnePlus watch and I move to another phone, I don't lose stuff. I take my OnePlus earbuds and I hook them up with my Vivo or my Xiaomi. I don't lose stuff. They still work. It just works. It works to the full maximum capability of the device that I purchased. It's so bad. Oh, Anthony. No, 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 no. So Anthony writes, using an entry-level Moto G Power shows how bad my photography fundamentals are. Actually, the cameras on entry-level Moto are not terrible. Like they're solid. They're good point and shoot. Again, you're talking about the price tier that you bought in on. I'm not going to hold up a Moto G Power and say I'm going to use this for, the content that I produce on my channel, but it doesn't take much to lean into those cameras and get better results out of them. You can get Open Camera, that's a free camera app. You can even dig a little bit more into like how that phone can capture raw files. You can get I don't know on a Moto G Power. Someone will have to clue me in. I don't know if Blackmagic, if you have the full camera API support so Blackmagic can shoot video, but if you can max out what that sensor can do. Again, it's like I don't want people to feel like you have to spend $1,400 on a Xiaomi 15 Ultra to get, the absolute best photography experience. If you apply good technique and you get better controls, even mediocre priced phones have respectably good camera hardware these days. Excuse me. I love holding this phone up because it's one of my favorite all-time video topics. So this is my Lumia 1020. See how immediately accessible it was on my desk? I love this phone. This phone is a great talking point. In the camera technology, we still revere the Lumia 1020 as being one of these like groundbreaking photography experiences. The camera sensor in here is demonstrably poorer than the camera sensor technology that's in something like a $200 Infinix or a $250 Indian Lava phone. We've moved on. This sensor experience is now base model smartphone. If you can get a 1/1.56 inch type sensor, you're in roughly the same ballpark as the Lumia 1020. 2/3, fix your fractions. 2/3 inch type sensor is 1/1.5. That's why this whole like inch type sensor thing, we have to do stupid fractions in our head just to try and calculate what these sensors are supposed to be. So every time you pick up your Moto G Power, I want you to think, I have hardware on tap that would have blown us away, that would have blown our minds back in the Lumia 1020 days. And that you got it for what? $200? Something like that? That's wild. Go out and use it. Just go use it. Go take random photos of flowers and trees and hillsides, and then you'll see like, oh, this is what I can do. I can push the camera here. I need a different camera app to do this. And you're gonna find like you might not need a more expensive phone to improve your photography. You might be fine at like $200, right? I'm way behind on this chat. I'm sorry, y'all. Oh, wow. Yeah. Michael C is following up on some of the conversation about like Flossie Carter and stuff like that. I don't know if I've really. I used to have Flossie on a lot, just kind of like I'm editing a video and I'd have it on as background noise. And it's not that I ever really disagree with him. It's just not how I use devices, and it's not how I try to conceptualize pros and cons on a device. And it's still like just fun, entertaining chat. It's like I feel like I'm just sitting listening to someone kind of chat out a phone. It's very podcasty, right? It's good for that. Like I need some stimulus to my brain, but I'm not sitting here watching the video. Um, like enraptured with the presentation or the style or the delivery. But I just kind of fell off. I really, for a lot of this stuff, I'm trying not to watch other people's videos on things because then I find when I go to make my review, I'm spending more time arguing with other reviewers' lazy assessments than I am actually talking about the phone. And I think this really peaked in the last days of LG for me, where I could very quickly and accurately predict what every other channel was going to say about an LG. And so instead of me doing the review about the LG, half of my video was preemptively responding to what I knew the lazy criticisms were going to be and showing how that was incorrect, but it just makes me argumentative and hostile, right? Because if we're talking about a popularity platform like YouTube, most people want to see the LG lose. The only point in even bringing up LG was to show how Samsung was better. And that's what the audiences on YouTube wanted. And I was trying to confront that idea. They didn't want to be confronted with that idea. They just wanted to see their favorite phone brand win, especially in kind of like the peak of Samsung. From the S10 to the S20, that was a dark drop where Samsung tried to ratchet up prices, remove features, and we saw them minimize their advertising budget. But the S10 was peak Samsung. That's the most phones Samsung has ever sold above $500. Galaxy S10. And it's been downhill ever since. But at that time on YouTube, because we knew Samsung was hitting so hard and LG was underperforming so bad, if you confronted someone with an LG G8 and said, "Hey, there are really good reasons why you might want to buy this phone," well, I mean, you're just being a contrarian. You just make money by telling people that Samsung sucks. You're like, I'm not making any money, man. Let me tell you, being an LG fan makes you no cash. Oh man. Michael C saying he has a OnePlus 12R. The updates have been really slow. I'm still on October 5th security patch. I don't know where my 12R is. I have my 13R right over here. And this one has actually gotten a couple really nice little just polish updates too. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find my 12R. I really don't know where that is. I think it might actually be over on the bookshelf, which is even harder to kind of dig through all of the individually wrapped phones over there. Let me get this out of the way here. Oh, Colin Murphy. Good shout about YouTube history, but I was being sarcastic. Totally fine, Colin. I until we approve like an international sarcasm font, I tend to just kind of take people at like face value of what they're talking about on these channels and stuff. I do rely on my subscription feed and was pleased to hear that I'm one of the 5% who do. I would say walk away from your subscription feed. Give it a shot. Go through your subs and like I said, don't go overboard. I'm subscribed to like hundreds of channels on my YouTube and it is kind of analysis paralysis. It is information overload, but pick like 10 really solid, I like what these people do, and put them into an RSS feed reader and then use that just to kind of keep up with what you're seeing and what they're publishing. And I think you're going to see you're missing videos the way that YouTube is manicuring your subscription feed for you. From Brian Glaze, unfortunately, we're counting on the Tastemaker channels to show YouTube what we will actually watch. I argue that if a couple creators in the HD and boss category made follow-up videos, ... winky face emoji. But again, it's like they aren't driving the trend. They're just reacting to the trend. If you have a YouTube channel with like 10 million subs and you're a commentary channel like you do tech reviews, then you are not a tastemaker. To make money on your videos, you cannot have the YouTube algorithm ever slip in the slightest on what your popularity might be. So ultimately, like I would get into these arguments with some of the editors over at Pocket now, is that we should be using the popular videos to subsidize production of more less popular devices. We should give them the exact same consideration, the exact same review process, and we should know that we're going into this. But that was also when YouTube really started ratcheting these channels. So if a video started underperforming, then the next time you would do a popular topic, it too would underperform because your last video underperformed. See, it's not just like in the moment. YouTube remembers your failures and then puts your next video up against your failures. So that's the audience you deserve. You can't slip even just a little bit because it takes a Herculean effort to rebuild and get yourself back up to where you were at your peak. So again, like a massive YouTube channel with millions of subscribers, what they're looking at are what is the exact trending peak? Do I get to benefit from this exclusively? Well, then I'm cool with an embargo. Do I get a little window where I get to talk about this and no one else does? Then I'm happy to play ball. I will make the most money at the peak of the popularity of this trending topic, and then everyone else can eat my table scraps. And if they ever tried to do this more fairly, then they would immediately be replaced. There would be another YouTube content creator that would happily take their spot instead. And that's what happens with informed commentary channels. I keep bringing up a dude like Hugh Jeffries. Dude's got like 1 million subscribers, and his most recent videos might pull, I don't know, like 5%, 10% of his total potential viewership. That's not right. There's no world where that is reasonable to assume that 1 million people push subscribe on your channel. So like your best performing video should get like maybe 100,000 views. What's the point of having a subscription? Of saying that you've subscribed or even smashed that bell icon? Like that doesn't make any sense at all. So no, the top channels have to reflect what the analytics data is already telling us. So yeah, I mean, again, Brian Glaze nailed it when he put tastemakers in big quotes because like they're not they're not driving the future of tech discussions. All they're doing is it's like a react channel. All they're doing is reacting to a Google Analytics or Google Trend search. You might as well just put that up on the screen like, whoa, this topic's super popular. You guys should care about this. And that's like the whole video right there. And I bet you they'd probably get about as much traffic. Oh yeah, Michael C. I saw Technology Connections point out how crazy it is how few people use subscriptions and instead rely on Google algorithmic recommendations as their preferred homepage. It's so disheartening when you're really in the middle of that kind of like when you're like in the middle of that kind of realization. He called it algorithmic complacency. Yeah, it is. Um, oh, a couple people talking about like car comparisons. Like I couldn't in the moment just make up a good comparison for what that analogy would look like of a phone that radically accomplishes more work per watt of energy versus a phone that might run more consistently but take 3 times longer to accomplish the same task. Like I just couldn't in my head make that stick with cars. And then someone else is like, well, yeah, you also have like hybrids and plug-in hybrids and EVs. And you're like, oh, now it's way too many variables. Oh no. So let me bring this back down here. Gabaletta, unless Xiaomi brings back the stepless variable aperture on their Ultra phones, I'm keeping the 14 Ultra for as long as I can. I miss it so much. Even just the 2-stage aperture made the 13 Ultra such an interesting option for photography. This is going to be a major part of my Xiaomi 15 Ultra camera review. It makes the 15 Ultra feel a little less ultra. It is still, I believe, the best camera performing phone released in 2025. But Gabaletta brings up a point where maybe someone might pick and choose different features, and its toughest competition is not from another phone released in 2025, but is from the same company's release from 2024. Maybe that's what we have to talk about. Mando. Yeah, again, it's like anytime as a nerd, I'm going to bring that up. Mando, never forget what we lost. RIP LG phones. I have a video out on the Patreon talking about the best way to watch movies on your phone. And for me, it's a phone paired with some of these AR and big bunny ear quotes, but AR cinema glasses. But there's a very specific way that you want to use the glasses on your phone. So I explain what that process is. And I couldn't help myself in the middle of that video going, and also this would have been way easier if you still had LG phones. If you wanted the absolute best quality audio to go along with the absolute best video presentation, it's still an LG. You pick yourself up an LG V60 and turn it into a digital media player and plug in glasses and use Screen Plus and have killer headphones connected over a cable, and that's the best. It is the best. There is nothing that has beaten it in our market today. And it's just a bummer. Like, I was trying to get people to talk about stuff like that. There are reasons you might have picked an LG Velvet over a Galaxy A series. People didn't want to hear it. I got into arguments with Steve Litchfield about like, oh, but it's so thick when you have the LG Velvet in a dual display case. And be like, what are you talking about? You're comparing the LG Velvet against a phone naked? Because if you put another phone in a wallet case, it's going to be thicker than the LG dual display. And then you have a whole other display. The LG Velvet was thinner than a naked Galaxy Z Fold. And you have two screens. Oh, but who wants to carry all that bulk? Well, then no one wants to carry a Z Fold, I guess. What's up? What are we doing? Are we really comparing oranges to oranges? Because I don't think we are. And Steve is like, again, one of my favorite people on this planet, and I just love his podcast. But it was like that was the blind spot. Even for him in that moment, it was like I need to not be impressed by what LG is doing. And I could never suss out why that is. And I really think it's literally just a function of marketing. LG never came with heat. LG never themselves seemed particularly interested in their own devices, and it left this marketing commentary vacuum. And you're like, I guess that's what failure is like not getting people hyped up about your devices for good practical reasons means that everyone else is just going to make up what they think the narrative is. It's so wild. Again, it's so many things that we've lost on our mobile devices. From Pixels, this is like a really difficult xenophobic question to kind. No, your question isn't xenophobic, but the reason is xenophobia. To kind of unpack, and I really don't have the time to do it delicately. Pixels asks, why are people so against Chinese flagships, even though Samsung has the same exact issues like bloatware, excessive data collection, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And unfortunately, it is a component of xenophobia. When we are talking about different nations on the planet and the political maneuvering of different politicians and different leaders for different countries and different regions, it is easy to conflate the experience that a Chinese citizen has with a phone against what that same phone would do in another region. And when people say, "Oh, Chinese phones collect all this info on you," they aren't delineating where that phone is to be sold. They're only showcasing where that phone was manufactured. And I actually have a video on that on my channel talking about spying on your phone, spying on you. And there was a study that came out where taking the Chinese flavor of a phone showed some pretty significant reach into what that phone was collecting and then sending to services that we were pretty confident were being actively monitored by the Chinese government. So if you're a Chinese citizen, that is the experience you're going to have. If you're a Chinese company and then you sell that phone in India, they have different data privacy and different consumer protection laws. If you are a Chinese company and you sell that phone in the EU, They have the strictest consumer protection and data privacy laws. And if there were any situation where researchers and regulators found that a Chinese phone was doing the same thing in Germany that it was doing in China, we would have heard news about it. Whenever there have been these missteps, like OnePlus had an issue a while back. I want to say it was with the OnePlus 5, might have been the OnePlus 6, where your information was kind of going unencrypted to servers not in the United States. And even that, for how minimal the regulations are for consumers here in the United States, even that was like a bridge too far. And we heard about it. And I think OnePlus was sort of chastised by the mainstream media. It was also right around the time that they were caught like rigging benchmarks again. I was on Cheddar. I did a morning spot on Cheddar talking to some of their reporters, and they interviewed me about like, oh, what is this benchmark rigging? And then we also talked about like data privacy. Um, it's really easy to just lump all that together, and when you're already in a hostile situation between two different countries, then it's easy to just blanket China phone bad, Apple phone good, when really there's not much functional structural difference in any region where those devices might be sold. An Apple versus a OnePlus here in the United States are going to handle data very similarly. An Apple and a OnePlus in China are going to handle data very similarly. And we just have to be smart enough to kind of recognize the nuance of that, but also think like what passes for nuance in a lot of the conversations that you hit when political attitudes are as charged and as hostile and as confrontational as they are. So yeah, I mean, I was called a lot of names on that video, but then internationally, that video did really well, talking about the study, and I hopefully drove a little traffic to the study because the study was really insightful. The study was actually really interesting, and it also helped. I think it also helped if you're a Chinese citizen and you buy your phone in China and then you travel to the United States, you don't have the same protections. It would be worth it to you as a Chinese citizen to travel to another country and buy a phone there and use that phone that was purchased in the region that has better consumer privacy and better data protection rules, if you were concerned about your government's ability to monitor what you do, right? So that study actually does help illuminate like what are the different dividing lines, what should we expect? But that's not really what people are talking about when they're like, "Oh, it's a Xiaomi, it's a Chinese phone. It's just going to steal all your stuff." Okay. I mean, there's no reaching that person. That person is a lost cause. Oh, Michael C, you know I'm on that same boat. I'm tired of people saying that it's peak smartphone and that they can't really get any better, especially when they're using like a phone that charges at 25 watts. There's so many ways for a phone to get better. Look at what Xiaomi is doing with the modularity and all of the Chinese phones for charging speeds and battery sizing, optimizing. We're seeing the newest, most radical battery technology showing up in Oppo and Vivo and Xiaomi. In fact, we talked about that last week, where yeah, we are actually seeing some push and pull. Maybe your upper speed in charging is reduced, but maybe now we're going to this like single cell design, and hopefully that improves longevity or improves capacity. So like yeah, my phone charges like 10% slower, but I got a 20% increase in battery capacity. That could be kind of cool, right? But I just mean like in general, we need to completely rethink computing. I've been saying this like since I was in Pocket now, at least. And since we started seeing the emergence of like Huawei and Samsung desktop modes, but we need to fundamentally rethink what our relationship is with a computer. I am still talking. I was talking to a mom today, not today, yesterday, at a friend of my daughter's birthday party, and like I was saying really basic things. She's so concerned about kids getting laptops in schools, and she's so concerned about when her kid's going to get a phone. And like I'm feeling it. This woman is very anxious about what to do with these things, but for her, it's like an all or nothing proposition. She is not confident in her ability to educate her kids on technology. And that just one day they're going to go from being a kid without a smartphone to being a kid with a smartphone. Like, it's all or nothing. And I'm saying things to her like, oh, well, with Lex, what we did is we wanted her to sort of understand piece by piece. So we started Lex off with a totally dumb MP3 player. And it was like she didn't even consider that things like that still existed. I can't blame her for that because who markets a standalone dumb MP3 player, right? So like you can see gears like locking up in her brain. And this is all fueled by anxiety. I have a lot of compassion for this woman because she is unprepared. And because she is unprepared, she has not prepared her children for their next year in school, where the school's just going to give them fully powerful, wide open Ubuntu laptops. That's what the school just gave our kids in third grade. Third grade. It's not a Chromebook. It's not a MacBook. It's not a Windows machine. It's not locked down in any way. They have admin accounts as the kids on these laptops, and they're wide open. Came pre-installed with GIMP, Shotcut, Audacity, Blender. I mean, these are ready to go Ubuntu machines. And it's, the only saving grace is like the kids don't understand how old school computers work. They're so used to tablets and smartphones, they fundamentally don't know what they can do with a wide open machine. But my daughter has now started moving all of her documents out of Google Docs because she doesn't want the AI to copy her stories. This is adorable. She did this on her own. And she realized that she had LibreOffice. So she's like, well, I've got Google Docs, but then there's this other square in this drawer. Most of the kids don't even know there's this drawer that you can open with these other squares. And one of the squares said Office. Now, when my mom works on stuff, she works in Microsoft Office. And it looks like Google Docs. So she clicked on it, and then she got a big white page that looked a lot like Google Docs. So she copied a story out of Google Docs and she put it in LibreOffice. And then she started doing it with everything that she had in Google Docs. So I'm talking to this mom and it's like, hey, I'm really nervous about like what we're doing with kids, right? We're letting kids play these games and the games are really bad and they have like gems and coins and currencies and they keep asking me for real money to buy these like skins and costumes for their characters. And it was like I blew her mind when I said, well, gaming is something that you should do with your kids. Like she had never considered that. Gaming is a thing for kids. Maybe we'll just buy our kids a Nintendo Switch and then I'll just put the gaming thing in their face. But they're not going to share that experience. What if they play a game that has content that they're not prepared for? We're at that age where the kids aren't always coming to us when when a concept is delivered that they're not ready to process. I'm really grateful that like my daughter will eventually come to us when there's some kind of problem or issue or something like that, but it's not an instinct for her to come to us right away anymore. I'm very excited to see my daughter is trying to be an independent, resourceful individual and solve her own problems. But we don't let her just go on to daddy's Steam account and play games. Gaming is a purpose focused activity that we do with her. And then when something comes up in a game, who's there immediately to address the concept? Marie or me. We're there with her to experience that. And then the second we see that there's some kind of issue, we're ready to provide some context or explain what she just saw. Right now, we're playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate. My daughter does not understand this concept of like a roguelite. You know, she understands like you die in a video game, you go back to the beginning, stuff like that. But like this is a very different format for her. She's never played a game like this before. And it's a slightly darker Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than Shredder's Revenge. So some of the moments that kind of get her worked up are a little scarier. They're a little more intense. They're a little darker. The whole presentation is a little darker than what she experienced in the more classic 16-bit style Shredder's Revenge. And I'm sitting right next to her because she's not playing this game by herself. It's all about couch co-op. And I'm trying to tell this other mom this, and it's like, I'm not sure. I genuinely don't know how much of this is getting through. Like, it's a burden to sit and play a video game with your kid. But it's got to also be overwhelming because this lady has no idea what the video gaming landscape really looks like. So, where do you start? If you're a parent who's never really been into gaming, but you want to make sure your kids are having better gaming experiences, what do you do? There's no good answer for that. What is the educational opportunity for a 40-year-old woman to catch up on the last 40 years of gaming so that they can be a good resource for their kids to find games that aren't just going to be predatory gambling training simulators? But that's why we see so many parents will just, you know, throw their phone to a kid and they'll go running on a thing and get gems and, oh daddy, I need to get this thing, and they'll go, okay, watch an ad. I just it's brutal. And I don't have much better advice. I mean, it's like literally it would have to be me sitting with that woman playing games with her so that then she could learn how to sit and play games with her kids. I don't I don't know. It's so bizarre in my head. I really felt like gaming had reached at least some kind of cultural accessibility where people were kind of aware. Even if they weren't gamers themselves, they were just sort of generally aware. But then when I see what kids are actually playing, I have to believe like their parents have no clue. Genuinely no clue how much damage is being done to that little brain, their most impressionable time, and they're playing like gotcha games and they're spending actual money for things in Roblox. This is the most horrific psychological experiment I could think of that we're just sort of openly capitalistically putting our kids' brains through. And my kid is ending up as the weird one because she'll go to school and be like, oh, yeah, I really love playing racing games. And like, I love Sonic and I like my mom and dad play Tetris. And have you played Vampire Survivors? It's really weird. And like her friends are like, I like Roblox. Like, ah, darn it. All right, I'm again. I got way behind on the chat. um, Brian Glaze one had that Lumia ready. I almost always have that 1020 within arm's reach. I just love like what that thing represented, even though we absolutely have bested it in terms of just actual photography. JJ4884, the derpy video commentary style makes me puke. Trying to remember what Android publication made that mistake. It's again, I'm being very very cagey. Ever since that Austin Evans incident with the, I think it was the Xperia 5 Mark II, where it was like I feel like they did the worst, most disingenuous hit piece on Sony. And like I got called a bunch of names because Austin Evans has a bigger viewership. So obviously I'm just a hater trying to take down someone else for my own benefit. I've given up. There's no point. There's no point in trying to call attention to the individual channels because then that just gives attention to the individual channels. So I'm very specifically referencing things that I know personally about, but I'm trying not to tell you about how to go and see the bad commentary because it seems whenever I point out the bad commentary, that gets 10 times more traffic than the commentary I think is good. So the only winning move is not to play. The only thing that changes someone's channel or changes the tone of their commentary is for their current strategy to fail. And if we can't starve them out of views, then our hobby is dead. So if I tell you about what channel's doing this and oh, can't you believe it? You're not going to go to Hugh Jeffries and watch better content. You're going to go to the channel and go watch the outrage bait. I you, I know for a fact that videos that are terrible get substantially more traffic than like TK, than me, even some of the other like really fun content creators that have bigger followings, like a Tech Tablets. Like I like his stuff. He puts out a consistent approach, I think, for a lot of his videos. I don't always agree with his conclusions, but like I feel like there's a consistency there. I wish he were getting more traffic than some of these massive channels. So why would I send you a link to something that is terrible that will give the terrible thing more attention? If you drop a comment on that channel, all you're doing is rewarding the terrible content. Oh, Brian Glaze, and to that same point, good analysis of that one. I do still wonder if it's possible for the larger creators to influence YouTube to put less emphasis on the analytics for search and recommendations. There's got to be better, and there won't be. They have to play ball. They are beholden to the platform. And even to their credit, like look at the channels that have tried to do things like an offshoot podcast. The podcasts aren't successful outside of the context of them being popular on YouTube. So if they can't make money and divert attention away from YouTube's platform, then they have to play ball with YouTube's platform. And if they don't, some other bootlicker will run into that space and make the money instead. I mean, we can replace the individual channel, but we'll still get the same garbage from a new channel who's now the sweetheart or the darling of YouTube. It's until we actually like live our truth in finding publications and periodicals and people that are putting out information on other platforms and other services. We don't rely on a YouTube subscription feed. Maybe all we do is turn YouTube into dumb server storage. So I'm not hoping that you'll find my video because you're subscribed on YouTube. I'm hoping that you'll find because you're subscribed through an RSS reader and that YouTube is just handling my bandwidth. Until we do stuff like that, we're properly screwed. Like there is no other recovery. We have to starve the platform with their current business model, and then they will change their business model. But again, I mean, most of my comments here aren't on Twitch, they're on YouTube. So I know I'm actually just contributing to the problem. From Gideon. This is a good question. I hope someone will be able to test this because I'm not going to pick up either. Gideon asks, is the new C1 modem in the iPhone 16e actually better in real-world use compared to the Pixel 9a's connectivity performance in terms of mobile data speed and overall network reliability? So my guess would be yes, even though the 16e lacks support for some of the fancier network features. I would bet you that the actual antenna arrays are probably going to be similar because that also has an impact. Like, what is the MIMO style antenna split? What is the cutout for something like a higher bandwidth 5G connection? On a Pixel, I've got this weird divot at the top of the phone. On a OnePlus, the entire back camera ring is actually an antenna so that as you're holding the phone, it's hopefully sticking out the side of your face, not going up into your skull. Those kinds of things all play a part in how a phone connects to some kind of wireless data or communication signal. But my guess would be sub 6, 5G, just the standard, like most stable connection Apple's modem is probably outperforming Samsung's. I don't know if we're comparing against MediaTek or Qualcomm. I would imagine both Qualcomm and MediaTek, and especially as we start getting into more advanced and higher frequency connections, that they're probably outperforming Apple. But I've been so unimpressed with Samsung's radio tech that I would imagine Apple probably has a solution that is at least comparable or better than what Samsung can achieve right now. I think it's MediaTek's game. I really do. I think MediaTek collaborating with Google on Pixel 10 is where we're going to finally see MediaTek being taken more seriously. Even though in Techland, think of all the editorials you saw when we started getting word, oh, Google's going to have a new supplier for their radio. Can you believe it? MediaTek. Blah. Ignoring the fact that Samsung was hot garbage. Literally hot, running hot to the touch, inefficient garbage. And MediaTek has been making brilliant modems and radios for years now. And they are like the biggest competitor. I think in many markets, MediaTek likely outsells Qualcomm for a lot of these kinds of components. And again, our tech reviewer, tech editorialist landscape here in the United States is so horrifically ignorant of what the global situation really looks like. They probably didn't know that, like, oh, these laptops have these little Wi-Fi and Bluetooth cards, and when you've got good antennas on those Wi-Fi and Bluetooth cards, the MediaTek Wi-Fi and Bluetooth radios are really good. That's an area where Intel usually dominates. And I wouldn't say that it's a clear victory for Intel anymore, right? Again, it's like if you don't know this stuff, it's easy to see, like, a writer at Wired just go, I don't know, maybe it's the more polished Galaxy instead of the Xiaomi. And you're like, all right, I guess it's Wired. They must know what they're talking about. And they really don't. It's all familiarity. It's all about, is this audience familiar with what I'm talking about? And if they're not, well, then it must not be good. When instead, no, we're years behind. Dimensity is easily a generation ahead of Qualcomm in terms of things like content creation. So many more people are making videos with their phones than they're playing graphics intense games on their phones. But that's not what we hear about in our Western reviews. What we see is Genshin Impact and COD, and I don't even know what the other benchmark games are right now. You should be playing games like Alien Isolation and Grid Legends. If you go into the source files on like at least a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 or higher, Dimensity 9300 or higher, and you start tweaking, like 100 frames per second in Grid Legends looks so good on a phone. I mean, it's not even like my favorite style of racing game, and I'm playing a lot of Grid Legends just because, like, man, that looks real good. It looks so much better on my phone than what I can do on a Steam Deck. So nice. Whew. Yeah, like I said, I'm way behind on some of these other topics and stuff. People are talking about the G8. Michael C. Ion TV just made a video about LibreOffice. When I was in college, OpenOffice was the alternative that most people used. So LibreOffice was a fork, I believe. I believe OpenOffice was having development issues, and a team of developers forked LibreOffice off of the initial OpenOffice code. And then that just seemed to iterate and improve significantly faster. But I was on LibreOffice for a long time. I'm only on Microsoft Office these days because, like, it's kind of necessary for both my work and my wife's work. Simon says Hypno. Now be fair, Juan. Everyone is entitled to their wrong opinions. You're right. You can have a wrong opinion. It's totally fine. I think the thing is like, I am actually trying to show my work here. Like that dude who said I was splitting hairs in a performance review of the Pixel by showing a Dimensity best a pixel in video rendering by a lot. Like where it wasn't close. and how a Pixel 7 was achieving the same task in almost the same amount of time as a Pixel 9. So, over two generations of phone, Google has actually gotten a little slower, where MediaTek has become ridiculously faster. And then to say, oh, but you're splitting hairs because what you're trying to do is sell someone a racing bike when they just need a regular mountain bike. And you're like, well, no, no, I'm showing my work, is what I'm doing. I'm actually showing you what the devices can do. And then you didn't watch the part of the video where I said, if this doesn't matter to you, you should absolutely not buy a Pixel Pro. And then that's where the whole communication breakdown happens. That's right, Darcy has it. OpenOffice got bought by Sun, which got bought by Oracle, so a fork was inevitable. That's what I forgot. So yeah, OpenOffice was actually optioned, and developers forked it for LibreOffice, free Libra. So yeah. So yeah. Man, I did not expect that to just be a 2 hour diatribe on the state of reviewing in our industry. I was really thinking we could maybe spend some more time talking like TV and movies and music and stuff. But my voice is actively failing. I need to wrap this up because I don't think I can keep sustaining language audibly for very much longer here. I'm gonna take a drink of water. So, um, the other thing that we had on this list, I had two articles that I did want us. We never officially made it out of housekeeping. I would like to point out that we had technically 2 hours of housekeeping. There was the article about Elon Musk selling Twitter. I do want to point this out just because I think this is hilarious. If I screen share this right here, Elon Musk says XAI has purchased Twitter, formerly known as X, for 33 billion. Um, I absolutely massacred that headline on purpose. Elon Musk sold Twitter to Elon Musk for 33 billion, right? So that's all fake. That's just moving money around in paperwork. And even he had to sell himself Twitter at a loss. Twitter has not increased in value even when he's just making up numbers for the valuation of Twitter. That is how much damage he has done to social media in general, but Twitter specifically, that he couldn't even pay himself a break even on the platform that he has supposedly been enriching the entire time that he's owned it. So if that's not hilarious, and if you don't think that's really effing funny, then I don't know. I feel like we're maybe not catching what's important about social media right now. And Simon says, Hypno, investors in XAI must be so enthused. So we generated all of this value for Twitter AI based on Elon Musk saying how he was going to make the bestest AI. And then he took that value, and I think this is all just in like stock deals, stock trades, took all of that value that investors built up in one side and did a paperwork deal that eroded the value that they had built up just so that he could float the value of Twitter as Twitter is failing. Now, I'm no stock genius, and nothing you hear from me should ever be taken as investment advice, but to me, that sounds like something an actual regulator would maybe be interested in the particulars of that deal. I don't know, some kind of like commission that could look at securities and exchanges, something like that, like a CSE, if you will, would maybe want to take a look at that business deal, that business practice, and say like, hey, if you're just selling yourself the thing you already own and you're making up a number for how much you spent on it, shouldn't the investors in the other thing be interested in the valuation that you put on this acquisition based on the money that they raised for your company? would seem to me. So then the other one that I just wanted to point out is that we do seem to have some kind of follow-up, some kind of news on when Pixel 9a is going to ship. It's looking like we're going to start seeing these orders out early April. Some people have been floating dates like April 10th, maybe April 9th, that these phones will finally start shipping. And the closer we get to this product launch, kind of the less interested or the less excited I am about Pixel 9a. Pixel 9a is going to be kind of my default Pixel recommendation for most people. If we're doing this BS average consumers thing, then I don't think you should spend more than a Pixel 9. I don't really see much value stepping up to a Pixel Pro or a Pixel Pro XL. Obvious, if you get one on a great sale, go for the great sale. I'm not saying don't like your Pixels if you have a Pixel Pro. I'm just saying, like, there are diminishing returns for spending more and more and more on a Pixel. 9a and 9 are kind of where it's at. But I also do want to highlight, like, if we go and just look up what a Pixel 9a is looking like, it's a $500 phone, and it's a $600 phone if you bump up the storage to 256 gig. And that's kind of tough. I mean, we're in a ballpark now where the 256 gig Pixel 9a MSRP to MSRP is in exact, I mean, I just held it up earlier in the video, is in the same ballpark as the OnePlus 13R. So the OnePlus, I love all the people who are like, I can't believe it. Google put a bigger battery in the Pixel 9a than they did in the Pixel 9 Pro XL. How could they even have done that? And then I hold up this OnePlus 13R, which has a 20% larger battery than what's in a Pixel 9 Pro XL. And, you know, my Pixel 9 Pro XL is roughly the same size. So, like, we're holding these, oh, I guess it's in a case. So, you know, you're holding those up, and, like, here's the 9 Pro XL, and here's the OnePlus 13R, and the 13R has a 20% larger battery than what's in the Pixel 9 Pro XL. So it's really not difficult. It shouldn't be some magical improvement. It's 100 milliamp hours bigger. Whoa. But 256 gigs of storage, triple camera arrangement, and the telephoto isn't amazing, but it is a functional camera sensor now, where we had a BS camera on the OnePlus 12R. You get real fast charging, and at the same price, the fast charger is in the box with the OnePlus. So any price that you have for a Pixel 9a, which isn't going to fast charge really at all, you have to bring your own charger, right? However much that might appeal to you, it doesn't matter on a Pixel, because you can get away with some gut rot 20-watt charger, because that's about as fast as the phone is going to charge anyway. But on a OnePlus, it'll charge radically faster, and the charger's in the box, included in the price. So it's just like point for point for point. The only thing that the Pixel 9a has that I really wish the OnePlus 13R could do is video output through the USB-C. That will make the Pixel 9a more flexible or more functional in scenarios like entertainment. So if I have the Pixel 9a and I have the OnePlus 13R, and then I go and take a flight, excuse me, my voice really is failing. On the Pixel, I can plug in smart glasses and have a much nicer multimedia experience than what I can do on the 13R. Absolutely a very practical win for the Pixel 9a. But otherwise, performance, battery life, charging speeds, camera tech, price for price, dollar for dollar, there is no other win for the Pixel 9a. It's that brutal a showdown, that brutal a comparison at $600. And right now, it's like, we say that's a $600 phone. We're right on that tier where we're starting to creep into more premium tier space, we're starting to baby step out of mid-ranger status. Look at like the new Pocos, right? 600, $650 phones. They're not the budget bangers that they used to be. The Pixel 9a is not the same tier of device as what the Pixel 5a was. The Pixel 5a was a monster mid-ranger, huge battery life communicator phone. The Pixel 5a was a champ, and it was less expensive than the Pixel 9a. So all of this like price creep, I don't really feel like we're getting a better value per dollar, right? Even accounting for inflation, it's just not lining up in my brain. And then a OnePlus can come out with like just a monster, almost flagship killer kind of product. I think the Pixel 9a has a really difficult time competing when it's that kind of point for point, spec for spec kind of comparison. So, oh, Jimmy, did you see the launch date was revealed for the 9400 Plus? I think it's rumored to be called. Yeah, I did get a I didn't get a press release on that. I did get an email from MediaTek just talking about what might be coming down the pipe for future product launches, and I'll be very anxious to share some of that information with you when I can, when I get my hands on that information. But yeah, I think it's going to be sort of the same kind of cycle that we've been seeing. It looks like Qualcomm is going to refine a year. And we saw the articles, oh my gosh, we got leaked benchmark scores for Antutu and the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 2, which is such a stupid name. I really hate that's what Qualcomm is doing. Oh gosh, there's like 40% bigger score on Antutu, which doesn't mean anything. I think Qualcomm is going to stick with a very similar core configuration, and I'm really anxious to see what MediaTek is going to do to see if they refine that CPU or that SoC. But we'll just have to see. I really hope they don't scale back. This quad big core design on a Dimensity is just next level. And it's a shame that like so many people really haven't given it a real shot, because what that thing can do is astonishing. It's like outperforming 13th gen Intel Core i7s, but at like a quarter the power draw at idle. You know, like it's just insane. So anyway, we can go ahead and start wrapping this all up. Michael Peppertech, there isn't one. Michael Peppertech is asking, what's the best smart glasses you would recommend? I tried the Rokin Max and was extremely disappointed. There isn't one best. Again, remember, IPD. The measurements on your face are unique. So every set of glasses brings different pros and cons to fit and to experience. And unfortunately, just like earbuds, you don't know that you have a great fit until you get glasses with a great fit. And so you'd look at Virtue, you'd look at Ray Neo, you'd look at TCL. I mean, again, the older TCLs still sell directly. Look at Rokid, X-Real. I just did that sponsored video with Goovis. It's a funky product, but if you absolutely need the best fit for your face, it's hard to fight that VR style experience. It looks funny, but it's still powered off of your phone, but you can move and adjust, and you've got that flip out thing. You don't have to take your glasses off. The Goovis might be for you. That's just the way this stuff works. So unfortunately, there isn't one best until you find the fit that fits you. The glasses that fit my face the best are the original N-Reals. The new X-Real ones are better in every technological way. The slight changes to IPD and the birdbath optics, they don't fit my face as well as the original N-Real. That's just where we're at. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And I just went another 15 minutes, and my voice feels like acid and sandpaper. So 2 seconds. Folks, we got so much coming out. I have some really fun stuff. I'm going to start just kind of peppering the Patreon with some of my experiences on the Xiaomi. I'm going to do a recut of my Xiaomi 15 video and hopefully get that out public now, a proper review now that the phone's been updated. And we got some glasses content to talk about. We have headphones and audio. I'm so stoked. The edifiers. So I almost always have my edifier planers in arm's reach. The stacks are delicious over ear cans. And now Edifier has true wireless with a little planar punch going on too. Delicious. I'm going to be shooting this video tomorrow. I'm really stoked. We got some cool tech, some really fun gadgets to talk about. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun stuff on the channel, not just Juan getting cranky for a pajama podcast. One of these PJ podcasts, we should absolutely um, make it a point that we're only going to talk about like TV. Or maybe even do something really obnoxious like a game stream. Like I've been playing Zombieville 3D. It's not a great game. It is just a run around, mindless, kill zombies, cartoony graphics kind of game, and it has its hooks in me pretty bad. And I had to. Zombieville was one of my all-time favorite old school like iPhone games. You just run from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen and you hit zombies with the baseball bat. And they turned it into a 3D kind of open city map. It's not a good game, but it is so much fun. So, I'll catch y'all. I want you to have an amazing week. Do awesome with your technology. Be awesome with your technology. And I hope you're still taking care of yourselves with all these stressful things going on. Take care of yourselves so you can keep taking care of others and be that amazing tech neighbor that your neighbors really need. If they don't know how to help their kids with gaming, they need people like you to help teach them how to teach their kids. This is real. I'm not just saying this to pat you on the back, but look around at your family and friends, and they're really struggling with some of these ideas. And you are the people that can help them. This is your superpower right now, your responsibility if you choose to accept it. So, take care of yourselves. Catch you back for a proper episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel next week. Take care. I love you all. I'll catch you back.